All right, welcome to Texans Unfiltered. We got another show for you this week, and hey, look who's back. This is a face y'all haven't seen in a little bit. Pat, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Just surviving through this, awful offseason. What about yourself? What you been up to?
Oh man, we just got done with Little League. Now it's just hanging out, and he's the Little League season's over, and he still was out there today practicing throwing into the net, hitting. He's got baseball camp all freaking summer, so it's just nonstop baseball for us, man.
Oh man, I hear you. My little boy had his first T-ball game tonight. His first hit ever.
How'd it go?
It was first hit ever. He hit a home run, but it's a T-ball home run, so it doesn't really count.
Goes in the books as a home run, dude. It goes in the books as a home run.
I was gonna have to tease him when he's older. I mean, you started off with a home run. It's like anything less than that now, just not cutting it.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good.
That's awesome that he's just sneaking in and sneaking out.
Yeah. He's not used to the new camera yet, so he's got to get used to the boundaries of it. But
yeah, it's an extra wide angle. Like we can see your whole bookshelf back there. It looks like you got some arts and crafts stuff going on.
Yeah, this is the wife's office, so I borrow it for the podcast and for anything else that I do when I'm working. So,
well, that is awfully nice about you. Well, everyone's here for us to talk Texans, so I guess we should, talk about this team, even though they're not the most fun subject to talk about right now. However, you haven't been here in a while, so you've missed all sorts of stuff. Granted, you haven't missed it. I do assume, even though you took a break, you were still paying attention, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I kept tabs at a distance. It was, I was leading up to the draft. Normally I would do all my mock drafts and looking at prospects and stuff like that. I didn't do any of that. But I went back, and now that I've seen the draft and looked at some of the guys that are on that they've picked up, I kind of like some of them. Excited to see guys like Brevin Jordan out there on the field, see what he can do. And then the free agency class. I know it's not a lot of not a lot of home runs, but like Nick said, it's going to be a lot of singles and doubles. And I think they absolutely nailed that. And who knows, some of these guys could turn into home runs. So I think that's the thing we got to kind of just sit and wait and see how this season plays out, and see how it unfolds.
All right. Well, have you had a chance to look at any of the tape on any of the draft picks?
A little bit. I watched obviously a lot of Davis Mills, and the one big concern I have about him is his health. He's got all the stuff to be an NFL quarterback. I know there's a lot of speculation that if he had waited a year and maybe come out next year, that he could have been the first quarterback taken. And who knows how that's going to work out, because an injury could happen or somebody else could show up during the season and just completely blow him away. But he's got what it takes, and I feel like he can be a really good quarterback in this league if he can stay healthy. And that's been his problem throughout his career, is just staying healthy, from what I've gathered. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
How much do you think he's going to play this year?
Maybe half the season, depending on how Tyrod does. But I have a feeling Tyrod is going to carry the bulk, obviously, because of his history with the coaching staff, and his time in the league. I know he's never been this guy he's never been a Deshaun Watson. He's never been a Patrick Mahomes guy come out there and just light it on fire. He's a very good game manager. And I think with where this roster is at, that's exactly what they need. Because, I mean, let's face it, they're not going to be super competitive in a lot of these games, regardless of who's at quarterback. So I think Tyrod is going to be playing a lot. And then, hopefully we get to see some Davis Mills sprinkled in there. And who knows?
Do you think Davis Mills – what do you – there's kind of the debate out there. Was Davis Mills drafted to be a starting quarterback?
This year, no, I don't think so.
Do you think he will be?
Yes, I think at some point this season he will start a game, at least one. Whether it be week 18 when there's no implications for anything like that, he starts a game. So what? I mean, he still starts, and I think that'd be really cool to see what he's got.
Okay. Well, that's not exactly what I meant. Like starting a game here or there. Him being a legitimate QB1. Do you think that's a possibility?
No. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's that guy.
Do you think drafting him will stop the Texans from taking a quarterback next year?
That has a lot to do with a lot of other things that could happen. But no, I don't think so. Depending on, especially where they fall in the draft. I feel like if they have a high enough draft pick, Nick may spend the capital on someone that Spencer Rattler or whoever these other guys are. They're going to be up there next year.
Okay.
I think there's that chance.
Well, the next pickup has been most people's favorite, Nico Collins. You got any opinion on him?
I think he can be a very, very good complement to Brandon Cooks. I know Brandon Cooks really kind of showed up last year towards the end of the season and put up some really good numbers for this team. And now he's going to have to be wide receiver one. And so I think Nico can be that really good complement to him that's got the size and the ability to go out there and make a play when it's needed and kind of bail out Tyrod or Davis Mills, whoever's at quarterback. He's got the athleticism to go up and get the ball, which is something this team hasn't had for a few years. Even when Hopkins was here, I mean, Hopkins could go up and make some plays, but he isn't the biggest of wide receivers, right? So now they've got this tall, they've got somebody that's tall and really long, and I feel like that's something that they were missing at the wide receiver position.
Do you have any opinion on any of the other guys? Brevin Jordan?
I really like the idea of Brevin Jordan in this offense. I feel like that's something that this team has been missing for a few years is a playmaking ability at tight end. And we've noticed it because they've been constantly drafting a tight end year after year after year after year after year. And I feel like they really need somebody to come in and be able to change the dynamic at that position. What we were hoping Jordan Akins could do, what we were hoping Jordan Thomas could do, what we were hoping Kahali Waring could do. And then we ended up having to settle for Darren Fells at 30 plus years old, going out there and leading the league in touchdowns at the tight end position for a few weeks. So, I mean, and then you got a guy like Farrell Brown that came in and kind of became a little bit of a fan favorite towards the end of the season because he was playing so hard. But I feel like Brevin Jordan is going to just change the look of that position. And I'm kind of excited about that one. I think he might be my favorite draft pick outside of Roy Lopez.
Well, of course, with drafting Brevin Jordan, I mean, granted, he's a 5th round pick, so that's usually not a guarantee of a roster spot. However, what tight end do you think doesn't make it? So we still have Farrell Brown. We still have Kahali Warren. We still have Jordan Akins.
Yep.
I think they signed Kahali.
Yeah.
Why do you think
he's never been able to get it? Like unless he just absolutely shows up to training camp and blows them away. I think he's the odd man out. I mean, he's just, for years he hasn't shown anything. Last year he came back and played a couple games and then ended up going on the injured list again, and we didn't see anything from him. So I don't think he's that guy. He's not it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, there was only 5 of them, so I guess we should talk about the other ones. Any thoughts on Garrett Wallow?
Nah. The linebacker position is so stacked, or I can't really say stacked, but just loaded with
it's
guys.
Half the roster.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's not ridiculous. It was one of the weaker positions on the defense, right? Would you agree?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So I think they really needed a high turnover, and I think that they went out and they got some guys to line up with Zach and make a difference and an impact on this defense. And a lot of guys that I feel like are really, really hungry to make an impact. So it'll be interesting to see. That's the group I'm excited to watch, is the linebacker group, because I feel like that there's somebody that's going to show up in there that we're not expecting, that could become, that partner to Zach Cunningham for a few years.
Okay. And then, of course, Roy Lopez. How are you feeling about him?
Love it. Love it. Love it. That's a position. That group has been just turned over. So many guys have come and gone over the past few years, right? You had Vince Wilfork for a few years. You had DJ Reader for a few years. You had Carlos Watkins here, Brandon Dunn last year, and it's just like Vince left. DJ was able to step in and be that guy. And granted, he only played about, I think it was 53% of the snaps, but he was somebody that offensive coordinators had to kind of plan around, right? You couldn't really run up the middle at DJ Reader, because even though he's eating up two blockers, he could still get a hand on somebody and slow him down enough to where a linebacker was getting to him and being able to make a play. They haven't had that for 2 years now since DJ left. And so or a year, I'm sorry. But it's like, that's one of those things that, even though PJ Hall was here, he had his games where he showed out, but that's how it was for some of these guys that show up, they get 2 sacks and then just disappear into the weeds. And I think Roy Lopez is going to be a guy that I'm not going to say he's going to become the next Vince Wilfork or DJ Reader, but I feel like he's somebody that can definitely improve that group in the defense, and eat up some blockers, and possibly get after the quarterback, because he's a pretty agile guy for his size.
Yeah. I mean, over and over, it's proven that defensive tackles usually fall because they are seen as 2-down players. So you can usually get a steal later in the draft just because they're viewed as 2-down players. So it makes sense. I mean, it would not surprise me if he ends up with the most playing time out of this group, because the coaches are already talking like they don't trust rookies, keeping that up. So definitely wouldn't surprise me. However, I think Nico Collins, to me, he's still my favorite. Like, no one's dissuaded me from that. I think that Davis Mills, I mean, he does have potential, but let's be realistic. Like, we're hoping that he's going to be a quality backup for somebody.
Absolutely.
Like, and then Brevin Jordan, I don't know. Like, there's just something about these F tight ends. Like, we get excited about Jordan Akins, and then he was never used. Before that, Steven Anderson was another guy that everybody got super excited about, and he was never used. So maybe we haven't had the right guy. There's just something, I don't know. Just the fact that Brevin Jordan was considered the number 2 tight end in this class by some analysts, and he fell that far.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get the excitement about him because considered number 2, but there's also a reason why he fell. So we'll see. I mean, again, I'm hoping he's a star. Like, I'm hoping he's a late round steal, like we all are. But to me, it's just hard to get excited about players when they fall like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think he can, with who's coming in as the head coach, with Culley coming in and where he's coming from, and seeing what they did in Baltimore with tight ends, that gets me a little excited. So
that is true. I
hope they can kind of replicate a little bit of that over here. That'd be cool.
What was it, 3 years ago at this point, when they drafted 3 tight ends in one draft and they all turned into contributors? Like, right. That's insane. So we'll see. I mean, maybe Culley will bring some of that magic, but I mean, there's never that guarantee. Do you have any thoughts on this whole Davis Mills or Kellen Mond controversy?
It doesn't really matter at this point. There's a lot of, obviously Kellen Mond's dad is out in the media and saying that they had gotten a phone call saying that he was going to get taken by the Texans, and then the Vikings ended up taking him. But you've also got, I think it was Davis Mills' sister, saying that the Texans had already called him, saying they were going to take him. So And who knows? They may have made the call to both guys and said, "Hey, if you're here at this pick, we're going to take you." It's it's one of those things, and they get a sense from the other teams around them of what they're aiming for and what they're going to take, especially in those third, fourth, and fifth rounds, because everything's moving so quickly. They make phone calls like, "Hey, what are you looking at? Who are you?" They got to be able to plan stuff. And a lot of the GMs and front offices, everyone feels like it's such a big. They keep such big secrets from each other and stuff like that. They communicate with a lot more information than people realize, and they when it comes to situations like that, they tend to help each other out a little bit, so that way they can they keep the thing moving, and someone doesn't get penalized for wasting their clock time and then not being able to draft somebody because their time expired and the next guy jumps them. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of glad they didn't end up killing him on, because I think it would have been a bigger waste than drafting Davis Mills. Not that he's a waste, but I think it would just been a really bad pick. I don't see Kellen Mond being a very good. He screams RG3. He screams. Oh man, who was up in Indy last year and came from the Patriots? What's his name? Jacoby Brissett. That's what he screams. Yeah, that's what he screams to me. Is a viable backup that can keep you in a game, but not somebody you're building a franchise around. So
okay. So what do you think about? I mean, it's you're a little late to it, but I mean, Texans Twitter was pretty upset about this. What did you think about all that?
About the pick?
No. Just kind of like that whole mess getting stirred up.
I mean, it is what it is. It's nothing that we can control, and I feel like I'm at the point now where I just roll with the punches and see how everything plays out, and keep the emotion out of it. I mean, there was a point I think it was, I don't know if it was you guys that I was messaging or whatever. I think it was 3 days after they had hired him, but I was messaging somebody and I was like, "Holy crap, they hired Pep Hamilton!" That's how out of it I was. I had no clue what was going on for the longest period of time. I mean, I had some people telling me things that were happening and going on and this and that. Like Chris Richard was close to becoming the defensive coordinator for a little while. And then, they ended up going with Lovey, but that was one of the things that I had kind of dangled out there, that Chris Richard was in the mix. And then things just didn't work out that way. So, I mean, I had information coming in, but, really wasn't paying attention to a lot of stuff. But again, it is what it is, man. There's going to be a lot of after draft, oh, they could have had this guy, or they were aiming for this guy, or, whatever. But that's the whole point of a draft. It is, you're taking a risk by sitting where you're at, or else you're going to have to give up assets to go up and get them.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm in agreement, and I've said it before. I think I'd rather have Mills than Mond. The one thing that Mond does have over Mills is if both of them turn out they can't pass, at least Mond can run the ball a little bit. But we'll see. I think neither one's going to be a star in the league. So it's, to me, there's no point in getting upset about it.
Yeah, I asked a very well respected person among the league on his opinion on Davis Mills, and here I'll read it to you real quick. I'm not going to say who it was, but let's see. I said, so I was like, where do you see his ceiling at after a short time in college? He could be a starter. He's not a super high ceiling guy. He's been hurt every year since he was in the 8th grade. So, and of course, that could be, agent speak or scout speak, whatever it is. But I see it and I agree with it. And it kind of, I don't think he's going to be that guy. He's not going to come in and light the world on fire.
Yeah. And I feel like I always have to let everybody know that is currently listening. We're not trying to talk bad about Davis Mills. People are already super defensive of him. I mean, let's be 100% clear on this. We want him to be a star in the league. We're just trying to talk about how likely we think that's going to be. That's all. Like, we would absolutely love it. Like, if Davis Mills becomes my new favorite player, he becomes the top quarterback in the league, I will be over the moon excited. And I will be happy to admit that I was wrong about anything that I said.
100%.
But, I mean, we gotta be realistic. Just because he was our first pick, I think there's this undue pressure and expectations for the kid. And I almost feel bad for him. Like, that shouldn't be the expectations for a third-round quarterback. So I think people just need to kind of chill. We're gonna hope for the best, but we just don't expect it.
Yeah, he's not a guy coming in that's like Dak Prescott, right? Like Dak was taken in the second round, or was it the third? I don't remember when it was, but third. Yeah, so but you knew Dak coming in was eventually going to be the starter, and you knew that he could do that. Judging, seeing what he did in college, Davis Mills isn't that type of a pick right now.
Yeah, and don't forget, Dak in hindsight, like, he had the college resume.
Yeah.
Like, you expected, in hindsight, of course, it's always easy, but he at least had the resume. Like, he actually took a Mississippi State team that wasn't very good, and he actually elevated that team. And Davis Mills, while he could potentially show growth, he hadn't shown that yet. So we'll see. Now on to free agents. Well, is there any out there that really stand out that you're like, I'm glad we signed this guy?
I really like the Chris Conley pickup. I think he's a decent wide receiver that can, help shore up that group. Desmond King. I think they did some really good stuff on the defense. With some of the guys. I don't know I guess Shaq Lawson really doesn't count as a free agent because it was the trade.
Yeah, you can still count him. Who cares?
Yeah, that's a really good pickup. I've liked Shaq since his time in Clemson, and if you look back at that group coming out of Clemson at that time was ridiculous. But Shaq's been a really decent defender in the league for a few years from his time in Buffalo and then Miami and stuff like that. He was he's respectable, so I think that they did a really good job with that. Man, there's so many freaking names to look through, but like Desmond King, Chris Conley, Shaq Lawson, those guys are the ones that really stand out to me. Obviously, there's some of the bigger names, but I think they have the bigger resume to speak to. Not that they're going to blow you away or be an all-pro or maybe even a Pro Bowler, but they can help contribute and help you build a really strong foundation for this team moving forward.
Okay. Is there any free agent signing that you were kind of shocked by? Like, why did the Texans get them?
Half the linebackers.
Fair enough. There's enough.
I mean, it's just so many. It was like you're waking up every day like, hey, the Texans have signed this guy to a 1-year deal. They've signed this guy to a 1-year deal. I was almost waiting for him to sign Clay Matthews to a 1-year deal. It was like one after another after another after another. And so, I think there were a lot of unnecessary signings, but then again, like I made the argument on Twitter, I think I was talking with Rivers. They had a 90-man roster they got to fill out. So, they took the one area on the team that they felt needed the most attention. That's why they brought in the most competition for it. So,
okay, fair enough. I mean, when you sign, no joke, wasn't it like 10 linebackers?
Something like that.
Like, I know we've all joked about it being half the roster. It only felt like that because every day your notification was, hey, the Texans signed another linebacker. Mm-hmm. However, 2 of these guys got to come out, right, and look pretty good. Like, when there's 10, like that, the odds have to be in our favor.
Yeah, it's, you're going to take you take 10 shots, and how many are you going to make, If you're at the carnival, you're going to shoot the ball 10 times to try to win the big fluffy animal. The more chances you take, the better chances you have to make it, right? So why not?
Beige actually asked the very next question that I was going to ask you. Are there any guys that are still out there that you think would be nice to grab?
Richard Sherman. I mean, I know he's not the Richard Sherman of the Seattle days or even early on with San Fran, but just that veteran mentorship and that guy's going to be a coach someday. If he's not a coach, he's going to be a front, or he's going to be in the front office somewhere because he's super intelligent. He's really smart. So I just think having him here would be a huge plus for some of these guys. Even if he only plays 50% of the snaps, it keeps Vernon Hargraves off the field. So
yes,
I'm okay with that.
Oh man. Whatever happened to all the smoke around Steven Nelson?
I don't know, man. He's still a free agent, right?
Yeah, so, as far as I can tell.
I have no idea.
It seemed
it's
like
one of those weird. It's one of those
it
weird
seemed
things.
Like the Texans were on him right when he was released.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened. They actually signed. Who did they sign? They signed somebody else that was random.
It's not gonna be on TV because that's why I'm watching it here. Yeah, I don't remember. Who did they get? I'd have to go back.
Probably another linebacker.
It might have been. I mean, I can look real quick and see. I probably got it in my notes. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know, man. Let's see. But that's weird because, like, you saw rumors that Steven Nelson had interest from like half the league, right? And he's still a free agent. So maybe there was something to some of the drama in, was it Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
That teams are a little gun shy about. But then again, we always see those. There's always those few veterans that end up signing during training camp every single year.
He could still have a lot of interest, and he's just waiting to see who's going to give him the best deal.
Yeah.
Like waiting. I mean, when he was released, it's kind of an awkward timing. Most of the teams had already spent their free agent budget. They've already got kind of their plan. So you wait till training camp, you see who gets hurt, and then, get a little bit more money out of it.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys are on very minimal or very low guaranteed contracts. So, yeah, on paper it might have been a $1.2 million deal or a $3 million deal or something like that, and then they could, very well, cut one of those guys to make room for a guy like Steven Nelson or Richard Sherman. Granted, those two guys are going to, they're going to definitely require a little bit more cash. But with
let's be honest, they probably want to play for teams that have a little bit better of an outlook.
Yeah, probably.
If y'all can't tell, Pat's having just, bedtime is going a little late.
Yeah. It's all right, though. It's summertime.
No worries. And then I will probably mispronounce his name, Shaheem Carter. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. The free agent that was from Bama, right?
Yeah, he was the guy that was signed right after Steven Nelson was released. When everybody's like, oh, we're going to sign a cornerback. That was not the cornerback we expected.
Yeah, and it may have been one of those things where Carter, a lot of times, especially with how things were going during the offseason, some of these deals were in the works for several days. And so without knowing that Nelson was going to get released, they went ahead and went with Carter, and then Nelson falls out there in free agency, and they, they tied up a little bit more cash that maybe puts them in a bind where they can't sign them. That's one of those things with free agency. It's a weird. It's impossible to predict, and guys put a lot more thought into where they're playing nowadays versus, the money, especially when they're coming in on these lower money deals. They may take $2 million to go play with Tampa Bay over, $6 million to come play for the Texans, right? Like in the end, is that $4 million worth the opportunity to go get a championship? And for some of these guys that are on the tail end of their career, it absolutely is. They've already made their money, and they're looking to go, they want to go win. So.
No, fair enough. And you can't blame them. Granted, $4 million, I mean, that's that might be a little much, but we'll see. The next thing up, OTAs were canceled. Was that a big deal? Do you think that's a big deal? Like, how are you feeling about that?
It's 3 days of practice. 3 days of practice is not winning you a Super Bowl, or is not getting you into the playoffs, is not getting you to the AFC Championship game. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't. I think they made the right decision, especially with seeing some of the injuries that were happening around the league. There's already some pretty big names that are, that got hurt. And, I think protecting these guys and having them in the building and working out is one thing, but putting them on the field where they're going through drills and they're exerting, especially in the heat, is another. I know they have the bubble and everything like that, but they really truly try to be outside as much as possible. But it's nearly impossible with the way our weather is here.
All right. Well, June 1st has now passed.
Yep.
Do you think we're going to see anything happen? Any other moves that will surprise us? Anything from signings to, who?
I don't see Nick making a big splash right now, unless the trade ends up happening. And I think kind of where everything's at right now is, it's a really, really long holding pattern. Deshaun was in Atlanta for the longest time working out. He's back in Houston working out now. He's been working out at the gym of his choosing, and just trying to go about his business. The league is in zero rush to make a decision on that front. Even the lawsuit is in a holding pattern. So it's one of those things that we may see this thing drag out for at least a year without a resolution, which sucks because I know there's, you've got two sides to this right now. You've got a lot of people that are really hoping that he gets traded and they no longer want him to be any part of this franchise. And I get it. And then you've got a lot of other people that, they could care less about everything else that's happening off the field, and they want him here to make this team as competitive as possible. So it's weird to see that argument happen, whether it be on social media or on the radio or on TV. But it's right now we're waiting, and I'll tell you this: there's teams that are still very, very interested. They're still trying to knock down Nick's door to get an answer out of him. And there's some back channeling going on elsewhere for it too. And so the interest is very, very still real for a couple of teams around the league. Miami, Philly, Carolina is not one of them. They were out of the conversation very early. Before the Darnold trade even happened. That was one of the teams that Deshaun would not have accepted a trade to before everything else happened, regardless of what anybody else says. He wasn't going to go there. So, San Francisco was one of the teams. We know that's not going to happen because they don't have the ammunition any longer. Unless they're going to give up a lot of players, but they would have done that already. That's not something they would have waited on. So, that's going to be there's no resolution to that one anytime soon, unless something magically changes overnight. But as of today, it's going to be a long one. So
all right. So, do you think Deshaun plays this year?
it's hard to say. So if we're talking with a few people, and they keep saying that the league is in no rush to make a decision, and other things that have been told by people that would know, he does not intend to hold out. So I don't know. There's a lot of people saying one thing on one side, a lot of people saying one thing on another side, but the people that I would trust the most with it are the ones that are saying that he's not going to hold out, and intends to play, and whether it be here or somewhere else. So
if he's not suspended, do you think the Texans actually, as a franchise, actually want him to play?
I mean, you have no choice because you're paying him. So why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Because
it's one of those.
I don't think Nick as a GM wants to have. I mean, I know it's not, $30 million, but I know he doesn't want to be spending that type of money for somebody to not play. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I mean, I haven't seen any indication to say that they will not play him.
I mean, honestly, if Deshaun is really that angry at the franchise, let him. If he plays this year and he plays to the best of his ability, that's how you mess up the franchise, because he will push us out of our ability to draft a top quarterback to replace him. And I don't think any of the teams. I mean, who knows who's going to be the worst team in the league next year if it's not us. So, will there be a team out there that has the ammunition to trade for Deshaun and a pick that we want?
Right now, the teams with the ammunition, Miami and Philly, would put you middle of the pack as far as the draft order.
Right.
At least. I think Miami pushes you into the bottom third, right? Philly, I'm going to say they're going to be right around 500, right? So those two teams right there are the ones that I could say make the most sense, because you're going to get the most assets back for him. But again, he's got to want to go there.
Yeah.
And I know Miami would be his first pick and first place to go play for. It's just a matter of getting the deal done.
I think it's pretty obvious that if he had complete control over it, he'd be in Miami right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Over, like say no, nah. Saying Detroit, I don't think anybody wants to play Detroit. I don't think he would that trade.
No chance he'd go to Detroit.
Do you think that there's still a chance that Nick is like, no, I'm not trading Deshaun?
Absolutely. Nick is not the type of guy to let the media pressure him, let the fan base pressure him, or anything like that. Nick is a guy that is going to do what he feels is in the best interest of the franchise. And right now, honestly, what is in the best interest of the franchise is Deshaun Watson playing for them, right? Now, if you can't get that, and obviously if you get an offer that's way too good to pass up on, I know it sucks, and it would really, I'd hate to see Deshaun Watson, the football player, no longer on the Texans. But if Miami offers you 3 first-round picks, Xavier Howard, and a mid-round pick, how do you turn that down? I don't care. I mean, I think there's one quarterback in this league that's not tradable, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I think everybody else is absolutely 100% tradable.
I mean, arguably, prior to all this offseason, right at the end of the season last year, I think we would have said Deshaun was untradeable.
Almost, yeah. And I get it, and it's but obviously things change very rapidly in this league, and it's just one of those things that right now you're in a position where the Texans are in like no man's land right now, whether it be they're in full on rebuild mode or they're in a very or they got to do a very quick turnaround. And full on rebuild mode is trading Deshaun. Obviously, JJ's gone. Hopkins is gone. All of your stars are out. Whitney Merciless is about to retire in a year. And then who do you have left? Right? Like it's this roster. The face of this roster is completely different. And so Nick is at that point to where you got to make that hard decision whether you hold on to him or you trade him away. And I think that's like obviously coming in for a brand new GM. That's one of the worst positions you could absolutely be in.
Definitely. Well, we've kind of been going with this offseason, just kind of writing off that Deshaun won't be here, and the Texans will be horrible if he's not here. If he is here, how do you think the Texans do? What do you think their record is with Deshaun? Do you think they're a playoff team or not?
I think they're a 500 team with Deshaun.
Do what now?
I think they're a 500 team.
I can't hear you.
How about now? No?
Can't hear you, bud.
What the heck? Let me try something here. How about now? No? Awesome. They can hear me. They're saying in the chat they can hear me, so. Did you mute me? Okay, so yeah, like Pat's saying, I know they can't be a 500,
weird.
like 8 and 9, 9 and 8 type of team. I mean, I think they should have kind of assumed what I was meaning, but I forget now that the roster or the schedule has changed. So
I don't know what just happened, but
can you hear me now?
I couldn't hear you, but apparently they could, and now I can hear you. So
okay.
Joys of remote everything.
Technology, man. Yeah, so like I was saying, I think they're a 500 team, 8 and 9, 9 and 8. With him, without him, I think they're lucky to win 3 games.
Do you think that's enough to put them in the playoffs with the expanded playoffs this year?
No, I think the Colts. I think the Titans are still going to be a really good team if their defense can be somewhat decent. Because obviously, let's face it, that offense is going to be good.
Yeah.
I think the Colts might surprise a few folks this year. Miami, obviously, in the East. I just no. I think you got to win 10 games this year to be in the playoffs, unless you grab a wild card spot. But then maybe 9 and 8 gets them a wild card. Maybe
that would be potentially 3 teams out of the AFC South.
That'd be wild.
That would be wild. But if Deshaun's on the roster, I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening.
We've seen what the guy can do. You're in every single game with him at quarterback. You're competitive in every single freaking game. We've had some games, especially this past season, where there was a lot of mistakes, and he was not innocent of, or he was not a perfect quarterback by any means in a lot of games. But when your cornerbacks are consistent of Phillip Gaines and Vernon Hargraves, you're going to lose a lot of football because I don't care who's at quarterback. They're going to pick you apart. And we saw that happen a lot. So, regardless of what Deshaun did, the guy was pulling off miracles, and the defense would just go trot right back out there on the field, and they let 30-something-year-old Mark Ingram ramble off 80-something yards. So it's with him on the team, they're a much more competitive team, for sure.
Well, definitely. I mean, and let's be honest, the Texans with Deshaun on the team are a better team next year than they were this past year. There's just not a way to be worse, right?
Yep.
We're in agreement on that.
Yep. So, I definitely think the roster is better this year than it was last year.
I mean, it's not top heavy at all. It's very interesting that they are building from the bottom up. Literally, the bottom of the roster is where they've definitely strengthened it. Granted, we don't have strength at the top of the roster anymore. So this is a question that my wife was actually trying to figure out. What jersey do you buy now if you want to buy a jersey? Like, what player's jersey?
Man, I want to say Philip Lindsay, but he's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I really like the kid. I like what he did in Denver. He's a really likable person. But that just scares me, right? Like, I don't want to – I'm not a very big jersey person to begin with, but am I going to go out there and spend, $200 on a jersey, and then in a year the guy's no longer on the team? It's just like, it's scary right now. So I think this is the year that they don't sell a whole lot of jerseys.
No, definitely. Definitely. I do find it hilarious that Roy Lopez's jerseys are sold out.
I don't know. So I saw that today. I don't know if there's really any jerseys in stock, like at this point in the year. But I mean, again, like I said, I'm not a really big jersey person, so I don't know. Maybe they're in the middle of a fabric shortage, and it's going to be a while before they can get them back in stock.
Well, I mean, everything else is all messed up right now, so why not? Sure, throw NFL jerseys up there too. Well, we got about 10 minutes left. Is there anything that we missed that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to share? Anything going on?
No, I mean, I think I'm just excited to see what training camp starts in a week or two. Excited to see how that starts to play out, and see some of the guys that are going to show up and put people on notice, and maybe turn a few heads. I know I told you before the show that we have, I don't know when we'll do it. Maybe, hopefully I can get them next week. But we have gotten confirmation that Cecil Shorts will join us one night for the podcast. I think that's going to be really cool. I think a lot of fans will enjoy that. And we're working on a few other people, obviously, like we always have been. So, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about, really.
No, this is the hardest time of the year. Usually we're doing all sorts of like previews and so on and so forth. But honestly, between having the rotating co-host this offseason and just, the mess that the Texans have been, like, it's just been really hard for me to get up and, study players, especially since there's so many. There's so many players. This is the first point that I think that I've gotten to June that I can't pretty much tell the roster from memory. Right. Like, you could tell me a random name right now, and I'd go, sure, they're a Texan. Why not?
Right. Like, it almost like it's at that point, right? I mean, you don't know who's where, who's playing what position. Outside of the big name guy, the semi-recognizable names, it's hard to say. It's hard to know who's on this roster. But I guarantee you can name off the running back group, because, man, 3-4 years ago, these guys that would have been like absolutely the best running back room in the league.
Yeah.
But
what was now 3 years ago, I'm winning fantasy football with that group.
Absolutely, 100%. Now
this year, like, I always draft the Texan for fantasy football. I don't know who I draft.
I have always steered clear of drafting a Texans player.
I have to draft one. I have to draft at least one. And we got spoiled for a minute because you could always draft Hopkins. Now this year, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's going to be a mess. But I mean, ever since like I drafted Arian Foster years ago right before he blew up, and since that paid me back, like no one knew who Arian Foster was, and I drafted him, and of course he wins me a league. And after that, it's like, whatever, I have to find a Texans player to draft. Always have to. Like that's what I do. I mean, this is since what was that? That was like high school with Arian Foster. So
I remember being at the game. Man, I remember being at the game when it was coming in as a rookie, right? And it was against the Patriots, and he rambled off like 200 something yards.
Yeah.
And it was it was my best friend sitting right next to me. And I was like, holy crap, we have a running back. And it's crazy to look back at how that all played out. And I hate how it ended. I hate that he ended up having to go to another team. Didn't get to finish his career here. And then the injuries kind of piled up for him. But he doesn't seem to care. I mean, he's totally over football and everything like that. I have tried so many times to get him to come on. And the only thing that's keeping him from coming on here is because we're a football podcast. That's it. He's like, I'll come and talk to you about anything else. It just cannot talk to you about football. And I'm like, what's the point, dude? Like, what's the point?
I mean, I don't know.
Maybe I get him to come on and we just talk about his music and we talk about.
I mean, it'd still be cool just to talk to Arian Foster. He's like the coolest dude ever on top of everything else. But no, absolutely broke my heart with him. Probably more. He's probably my favorite Texan. Like, no joke. Just, I don't know. I've got a lot of favorites, but he may actually be my favorite just because of how genuine and like his personality really seems to be. And he, in my mind, and I think that he ends up being a top 10 running back if injuries don't bring him down. Like he was just no other running back glided the way that he did. Not that I can remember.
Yeah. It's not like he was incredibly fast either.
Mm-mm.
Right? He was just slow, elusive. Yeah. He was just elusive, and he made people miss in a way that not a lot of people do. But he just got into open space so easily. It was crazy, right? Like he had a knack to find that open space and get there, and just ramble off, yards after yards after yards and touchdowns. And the guy could catch the ball too. He's easily the best running back to ever wear a Texans jersey. Like there's no argument about that.
It just blows my mind that he has so detached himself from football. Because when he first when he had the hernia surgery, I remember him during training camp saying that if he's going to continue to get injured as a running back, he'll just come back as a receiver.
Yeah.
Like that's how competitive he was at that point. And maybe, I don't know, maybe part of it is even he believes that if his body didn't betray him, if he didn't, the craziness that he has to put his body through, like maybe he even knew he would have been a Hall of Famer. I still believe that. I definitely believe he would have been a Hall of Famer. Just a couple more healthy years. But, it wasn't in the cards, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's one of those things with the running back in today's league. Their lifespan is so short.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, and it sucks. Real quick, fun fact, and I mentioned this on Jordan's stream the other night. I was on there. But did you know Derrick Henry is older than Todd Gurley?
No way.
Yeah. Derrick Henry is 27, Derrick Henry is a year older than Todd Gurley.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. What?
Before we go, I got to double check that.
Derrick Henry was born January 4th, 1994.
Todd Gurley, August 3rd, 1994. No kidding.
Wild, right? I feel like Todd Gurley's been in the league for 10 years.
I mean, 2015, so he's been in the year 6 years. Dang, they just destroyed his knees.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. My mind is officially blown.
That's your fun fact for the day.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to leave me speechless. Like,
Yeah, I heard
I
that.
mean,
I don't remember where I heard it. It might have been somebody talking on the radio, and I was just like, "No shot." So when I had to go look it up myself.
it's only by about 6 months, but still, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, because I mean, what Todd was with Atlanta for the longest, or was it Atlanta?
No, the Rams. He was
The
with the
Rams,
Rams in St. Louis,
and then he
still with
went
the
to
Rams when they moved to LA, and then he went to Atlanta after he kind of
fizzled
started
out.
having knee issues. And I mean, let's be real. Todd Gurley, like, it's just knee issues.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, shoot. Somebody actually asked us to talk about this on Discord. Any thoughts on the NCAA ruling?
I think it's great. I mean, I think the kids absolutely 100% need to be able to make money in a legitimate fashion while they're out there risking their bodies and their future for these teams to make billions. The NCAA to make billions of dollars. I know Arian Foster spoke on it a little bit that there was times that he definitely he took payment when he was at Tennessee. Johnny Manziel was signing autographs at A&M. These guys are getting paid when they're in college. I don't care what anybody says. They can deny it all they want. These kids in one form or fashion are getting some sort of or financial incentive depending on their ability, right? And then you see all these videos of these kids, and I like the idea, and I love the excitement behind it of these kids getting on video that are walk-ons and getting put on scholarship, and the whole team hypes them up and yada yada yada. And to me, that's the NCAA, and that's the school's way of trying to, well, look, we're giving them an education. Well, yeah, but you're also like shortening their potential career, in the sports by several years because you're wrecking their body and tearing it to shreds for your financial gain. Coaches are sitting there making $7-8 million a year, and some of these kids are eating ramen noodles every night. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and I really hope that it comes to a definitive ending for all the kids, that they can start to make some money and basically make a living while they're in college.
No, I definitely agree. I think that the essentially the smackdown that the Supreme Court put on the NCAA was saying if this was any other industry in America, this would be illegal. And then pointing out how much coaches make and how much income was brought in. And it's all true. These players, they should be paid. Like, look at how much money the NCAA makes. And I mean, I know that there's this veil of amateurism. Like, all of a sudden, well, then Texas can afford any player that they want and blah, blah, blah. Well, first off, the kids still have to want to go to school there, even if they do pay them. B, the coaching staff still has to recruit them. And they still have a limited amount of spots on their rosters anyways.
Yeah, so, and I don't think it'll ever get to a point to where it's kind of like how the NFL or MLB or whatever, it's based on like a revenue share. I have a feeling they'll come to an agreement, and I think it'll be in everybody's best interest that if you're on the team, you make $60,000 a year, $75,000 a year, plus your education, right? So you're getting $75,000 a year plus your education. And I think that's really fair, because granted, they're only, unless they're a multi-sport athlete, they're only working. That's only so many months out of the year, right? I get it. There's an off season and they're training and doing stuff like that. But you got to look at also the idea of, you have an 18-year-old that's not living at home now, that's at college. Are you really about to hand them over $100,000 a year? You're playing with fire there, and I get it. I know the NCAA makes a ton more money than that, but I feel like you don't want to you'd end up seeing a lot more issues with handing these kids a ton of money versus, and maybe they do pay them $150,000 a year, but we're going to put half of it into a trust. I think that would be a smart move, right? So $150,000 a year, $75,000 of it goes into a trust. It's going to sit there and it's going to start accruing interest for you and start making you money. And then we're giving you the other $75,000 while you're at school so you can eat, housing, car, whatever you want to do with it.
No, I think that, that's an interesting point. Having a kid at that age have that much money. You used to see with NBA draft picks, you still see 19-year-old because they only have to play, they can do one and done. And I don't know, they're 18, so they're technically an adult.
Yeah.
But $60,000 when you're 18, that could be life-changing.
For sure.
But I'm also of the belief that they've definitely earned it. Football is more than a full-time job for a lot of these kids.
Oh, yeah.
Probably all of them, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, they should be paid.
100%.
Let somebody else figure out the details, but they should be paid. All right. Well, unless you have something else, I believe that is everything for tonight. We're right at an hour.
Yeah, I'm skating on thin ice right now, so we gotta go.
Oh man! All right, go take care of those kids. It's so nice to have you back. Thank you to everybody that's in chat. We look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a good one.
We'll be here.